of the taxonomy regulation in Europe. We know as well that the IFRS Foundation and the ISSB specifically is developing S1 and S2 standards, sustainability standards in general, which are now published and, as mentioned by Dr. Ndidi, endorsed already by IOSCO. And there are also further developments around the GRI standard, but also others that are not listed here. What is currently happening in that space, apart obviously from developing the taxonomies, are other initiatives, and one that is very recent, I believe, from I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, there was an announcement made by the Carbon Disclosure Project and XBRL International that they are joining forces and establish a partnership to integrate the S2 climate disclosure standard into the CDP disclosure system, which is actually quite interesting, especially since the CDP standards are quite broad in terms of their application. We do know that many of these standards that are being developed right now are overlapping to some extent. And therefore, there are also some initiatives that are aiming to create relevant mappings between the standards and the disclosures. One of such initiatives was also here in SA, where the Johannesburg Stock Exchange recently, maybe not super recently, but some time ago, published a document in which we're looking at the disclosure standards and providing some guidelines. And even in that document, there were certain mappings to the IFRS standards, GRI, CDP, and others, which actually is a great initiative because it allows people that are using different reporting frameworks to easily locate certain parts are related to the reporting needs in a different context. Also, there is an initiative that is run by the XBRL International to create something which is called the Global Taxonomy Concept Registry, GTC-CR, which is currently under development. The goal of that registry, which will obviously be formed as a XBRL taxonomy, is to kind of establish a common dictionary that will contain the definitions of elements that are of the same nature and business meaning. Such taxonomy later on can be reused by the standard setters like ISSB, CDP, EFRAG, or GRI, which will then also provide a bit more of the consistency between these taxonomies, even if they will be reported against in a different jurisdictions. It is expected that the GTCR will be applied in these taxonomies at some point of time, and as I said, it will improve the interoperability of the standards. Moving on, there are also some, let's say, side activities that are led by XBRL International, that are maybe not specifically tackling the ESG in general, but are providing some supportive mechanisms that would allow better consistency of the information being disclosed according to different taxonomies and so on, which is obviously a great initiative. So just to name a few, we have one of the working groups at the XBRL International level, which is called the Taxonomy Design Working Group, has established an initiative that there is some sort of a need for a guidance or set of recommendations for the regulators, especially, and the taxonomy developers on how multiple taxonomies can be actually referenced in a single report. Obviously, this is not something which is quite a new development, because the specification of XBRL already allows to have multiple references to different schemas at the level of the XBRL report. But the Taxonomy Design Working Group tackled that from the perspective of giving kind of a one in common recommended way on how such scenarios should work. Myself, I was part of the discussion at the Taxonomy Design Working Group level, but also to note there were a lot of contributions from the South African representatives, specifically CIPC, the Reserve Bank, but also the XBRL South African jurisdiction. Current status of that is that the first draft of the guidance was completed, and it was submitted to the best practices task force for review. Once it is passed on the review stage, we may expect probably sometime soon the publication of such guidance, which will be then most likely also applied in the context of the CIPC when designing the next year's taxonomy. Other initiatives also under the XBRL International are around standardization of some of the ISO codes. As we know, the International Standardization Organization is defining certain code sets that are officially recognized by most of the jurisdictions around the world, and are tackling various aspects, to be honest. However, from the perspective of the reporting itself, there were specific developments around the country codes and the currency codes, which are quite often used in business reporting, especially if we do want to make some breakdowns based on the currencies of the transactions, for example, or the countries in which the company operates. Therefore, XBRL International established also a partnership with the ISO community, specifically Technical Committee 68 and the subcommittee 9, which is arranged in to become kind of a official body that would be able to maintain these codes as per the ISO standards and publish them in form of a XBRL taxonomy. Quite interesting initiatives. The draft was published in March 2023. Working on these. Also aware of aspects. But not least, there's also around the digital signatures in XBRL and inline XBRL instance documents. That is working currently on establishing some sort of a probably a specification that would allow easily to embed electronic signatures into the inline XBRL reports and the corresponding taxonomies in case there are possibilities for extensions. Also, CIPC representative in form of Chuma is a member of this working group, so he's also up to date with the recent developments. So all of these initiatives are actually working nicely towards new reporting directions that we are heading to around the ESG, and potentially could be reused on those aspects. So yes, this is just this quick update I wanted to make, and before I dive into the details of the sustainability disclosure taxonomy from the ISSB, I will pause here for a moment and ask if there are any particular questions from these two slides that I just presented. hands up.
Stefan, you can go ahead. Thanks, and go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuma. Thank you, Michal. Just a question. Timelines, broad timeline sources still to be defined of all of these initiatives?
Yeah, there are no specific deadlines set by these working groups because these are operating on the basis of volunteers from the community that are using their free time to work on these aspects. So it is actually hard to establish the particular deadlines. For sure, at least the first two bullets that I'm right now displaying on the screen are expected to be completed before the end of this year. The last one around the electronic signature may actually take some more time as it application probably SBO is quite complex, meaning there are different versions of the specifications that must be published, like working group drafts for community review and some candidate recommendations that are awaiting some implementation in software. So it is actually quite hard to establish that. Also, with the holiday period in many jurisdictions, the works were on hold due to many of the members being out, and I believe that only next week we'll be having a first meeting after the holiday period, and perhaps then we'll be able to know more around the particular timelines. Chuma will be attending this meeting, so he will be able to give the updates to the SSP panel on the if such deadlines are set. So we will be letting you know. Okay. If there are no further questions, I will go directly into the next block, which is the detailed look at the IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Taxonomy. And I wanted to start with a bit of a fact sheet in terms of what was happening in the recent months. So as it was also highlighted by Dr. Ndidi on Wednesday, in 2023, as you know, ISSB issued first sustainability disclosure standards, specifically S1, the general requirements for disclosure of sustainability-related financial information, and also the S2, which are the climate-related disclosures. You have a link to the news item at the IFRS Foundation website to get some more details on that. But what happened shortly after the ISSB Foundation were lobbying different organizations for recognizing of the standards, and as we all learned not long ago on the 25th of July this year, sustainability-related financial disclosure standards, which was actually quite an achievement considering 130 countries, if I'm not mistaken, that needed to express their approvals. So this is actually great news in terms of further processing of that and introducing that and adopting that in various jurisdictions, and that was a great milestone. That's quite quickly after the decades of the first, and just 2 days after the ISSB actually published the proposed IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Taxonomy that is actually reflecting these two standards as mentioned before. This is considered as a draft version, which is actually a second draft version that was published on IFRS Foundation website. The first version was actually considered as informal staff draft of XBRL taxonomy that was published in May 2022, which was already somewhat preparing the market on what could be expected in such XBRL taxonomy, considering that the nature of the information is quite different to the accounting taxonomy. There was a need to investigate different possibilities in terms of how these standards could be reflected, also from the technical perspective, because as we all know, XBRL is quite a flexible standard, and therefore certain information requirements can be tackled or reflected in multiple ways. So with the staff draft, the foundation was able to investigate if any of these approaches that were proposed at that time are making sense to the community, and there are no issues with those approaches. This July publication this year is actually already fully reflecting the standards that were issued and also endorsed by the IOSCO. Hence, is more complete, more consistent, and aligned with the actual standards. Hence, may give us a bit more details in terms of how this will roll out in its final version. This draft proposed taxonomy was actually subject to public consultation, which was closed on the 26th September. So actually this Monday. And there were also, as Ndidi mentioned during her speech, commented by the representatives of the South African community via Taxonomy Design Working Group, which is of course great to see that, and also great to see that CAPC is pushing hard for incorporating that next year in its annual release. Yes. Was there a question? Because I was hearing some noise in the background. No. Okay, so I'll continue. So the idea is now that ISSB will review the feedback on the proposals in the second half of this year, and will aim to issue the digital taxonomy early in 2024. Obviously subject to the feedback received. I have a more detailed timeline on the activities that ISSB teams will be performing in the coming months. So we can also get back to that to see more or less when we can expect this final version of the taxonomy. Yes, so I will now move on to the actual detailed look, and as we were warning you, this is a slightly more technical session. So indeed you may see some code, may see some structuring of the files. I can actually later on open the taxonomy itself to give you a brief overview of that. But nevertheless, and when the slides will be also shared, so you will get all the links that are posted on the slides. So the taxonomy files and the consultation document, which is actually describing the contents of the taxonomy, the approach taken, the proposals for how the information should be disclosed and later on tagged with the elements defined in the taxonomy, and also providing some architectural design rules that were applied in that taxonomy is available on the IFRS Foundation website under the link that you can see on the screen. The XBRL files are provided in form of a taxonomy package as per taxonomy packages 1.0 specification. So the exact specification that, for example, CAPC is using in publishing the CAPC annual taxonomy, and is actually provided right now with two specific entry points reflecting S1 and S2 standards, with or without the elements reflecting industry-based metric as per S2. So below on the screen, you can see the extract of the meta-inf data that is available together with the taxonomy. and you can see all the details around that. I will show in a moment how these two entry points are differing, but just to be clear, there are no separate entry points for S1 and separate for S2. Both standards are put together in both entry points. The difference here is that one of the entry points is actually just providing the information on the standards, but without the industry-based metrics, which are only present in a combined entry point. So how does it look from the actual taxonomy perspective? So on the right-hand side, you can actually see the combined entry point, additional quite huge in terms of number. That place at the very look this on the stats platform, some technical information on the access, the dimensions for application on that disclosures plus something described in the month with the create on real implement that would be serving as a drop-down list to ensure consistency of the information reported. So these two entry points will actually be available from the taxonomy package. And I wanted to just showcase on how the taxonomy is structured, because it's actually quite similar, if not the same as in the context of the accounting taxonomy. So thanks to the, I guess, common themes under the IFRS Foundation, the taxonomy was created in a same or very similar fashion to the accounting taxonomy, which obviously is quite good, because then there is no particular needs to completely revise the structure of, for example, the software solutions that are working with these taxonomies. Hence, it will obviously increase the usability of that without any additional customization. Though still some customization will be needed, and I'll be describing the differences shortly. So please bear with me, and now I'll just quickly go through the folder structure of the modules. So in terms of the modules, because I'm using the nomenclature of a module. So as you know, in the accounting taxonomy, we have three main modules, reporting modules. So we have the management commentary module, we have the IFRS full, which is having the complete IFRS standards, and we also have the IFRS for SMEs, which are more for the small medium entities. Yeah, I'll pause for a moment. Chuma?
Okay. Sorry, so we just give us a few seconds to switch connectivity so that there is consistency in the audio feed into MS Teams. Can we have just maybe 30 seconds? Go back just now, thanks.
Okay, so I hope you can see the screen again. I switched the connection due to some technical issues, and I hope now everything shall be synchronized well and the line will not be breaking. But in any case, please inform us in the chat in case of any further issues, okay? Perfect. Okay. Yeah, going back to the folder structure of the SDS module, and again, the two modules that we currently recognize in the SDT taxonomy are the IFRS IM, the industry metrics, and IFRS SDS, which are the sustainability disclosure standards. So from the folder perspective, you can see quite similar structure to the one in the accounting taxonomy. Particularly, we have the two entry points available at the root level of the main taxonomy folder, together with the meta information that is required for the taxonomy package metadata that is used by the tools to understand the content of the taxonomy. And also each module is actually represented in a separate folder. So I will focus now on the SDS module of the taxonomy, which under its folder has three separate folders together with the core taxonomy schema file that contains the definition of all the terms and elements that are later on used in the tree structure, in the presentation link base, and the definition link base. So similarly as in the accounting taxonomy, similarly also as in case of the CIPC taxonomy, we have firstly the folder, the technical folder with the specific structures related to the dimensional constructs used in the SDT taxonomy, which is actually represented both at the level of the presentation link base with the pre-file, as well as the definition link base with the dim files. These three extended link roles, because each section of the taxonomy, as per the extended link role, is presented in a separate file, are corresponding to the four application dimensions, which are allowed by the issuers or the entities to assign them to the information that they will be disclosing. For example, the retrospective information, as we all know from the accounting taxonomy. It does also contain the definition of the roles for the dimensional parts, as well as probably some default members applied for the explicit dimensions. And also there is a set of generic labels and the generic references to also allow later on for translations and referencing also at the level of the extended link roles, which is not necessarily supported by the standard XBO specification, and hence must be used through the use of the generic link specification. So this is the dimensional folder. Then we obviously have the labels, where we provide the human readable etiquettes for each of the elements defined in the taxonomy. Specifically, we are distinguishing three type of files or type of labels that are applied on the elements defined in the SDT taxonomy. So we have the documentation label set, where we include some general information in a more narrative form to explain the usage of a given element. We have the implementation notes that were introduced a few years ago to give some more appropriate information in terms of how certain fields will be implemented before being reported, and also the standard set of labels as we know, that are assigned to every single element to ensure that everyone can actually read and understand what a certain element is about. And then last but not least, actually the most important part of the taxonomy is the set of link bases that are depicting the S1 and S2 standards specifically, and they are distinguished by two folders, and each folder will simply contain a set of definition, presentation, link bases together with the definition of our extended link roles, some references to the SDS standards, and some generic references for the roles used in that space, in that submodule, in that standard. And then similarly as for S1, we have the same structuring for S2, as you were seeing that on the screen before. There were a bit more extended link roles applied at the level of the S2, and hence this is reflected here, because as I mentioned, every role will be actually defined in a separate file. So this is how the SDS module structure looks, and this is how the industry metrics module looks, which is actually quite similar and using the same, let's say, logic in terms of placing the files. So we have the IFRS IM module, which has the dimensions, labels, and link bases folder together with the core taxonomy that define all the industry metric elements that are representing these metrics. In the dimensional folder, we just have a subset of the files that we could see in the S1, specifically tackling those dimensions that are of relevance in the context of the IM module. We have the same type of labeling based files, so documentation, implementation notes, and the standard labels, plus one folder representing the standard S2IP, which contains all the metrics as defined in a separate extended links. Obviously, I couldn't make a screen that would showcase them all, but there are actually plenty of these presented in the taxonomy. So when we open later on, I will show that to you. So yeah, this is how the structuring of the files looks. You may recognize that if you haven't seen the actual original IFRS taxonomy, that this is quite similar to how CIPC is approaching this as part of XBRL SA architecture, which was actually also quite aligning with how the IFRS structures are being presented. Now, in terms of the preview, how the actual link bases look from the perspective of the tools, I use a RHEL, which is the open source solution, to open the taxonomy and just scroll through its contents. So as you can see, there is quite a lot of nesting that specifically is due to the fact that the model itself and the taxonomy is broken down by dimensions to allow more flexibility and more precision in terms of reporting particular aspects of the company operations and the disclosures related to the GHG aspects, so that the information later on retrieved from the ESG reports could be better analyzed. Most of the elements which are, let's say, reportable, so not the line item abstract type of components that are more serving the purpose of grouping, other elements are available, and the references to the standards, similarly as in a manner that we know from the accounting taxonomy or the CIPC taxonomy, are well presented on the screen. I will maybe stop for a moment and open the taxonomy in a RHEL just to show you that. So if I already did some pre-work before that, so I embedded the taxonomy package of the sustainability disclosure taxonomy into the RHEL software. And while trying to open that package, the tool will actually ask me which of the entry points I would like to open. So as I mentioned, we have the main entry point with just the standards, so S1 and S2, and we also have the combined entry point that also contains the industry metrics. So I will start maybe with the very first one. So once opening that, you'll see that we just have those few set of extended links that contain the information from S1, S2, plus the free technical dimensional structure, one for the retrospective application, retrospective restatement that can be used by the entities to restate the information, some information about the ranges that can be also used for breaking down the information, and as usual, the information about the default members that is facilitating the reporting of non-dimensional information. We have the extensible enumeration structure where the technicalities around the drop-down lists are presented, but I will focus on this a bit later. And the actual main content, which is the standard S1 and the standard S2 as highlighted on screen. Now, each of this structure you can browse from various different perspectives. So from the perspective of the governance, strategy, risk management, metrics and targets, general requirements, judgments, uncertainties and errors, application guidance, and some effective date and transition. Similarly goes for a climate-related disclosure. However, the aspects or the views based on which we are looking at this information are slightly limited when comparing to the general requirements. Now, for each abstract, we will have a set of elements that can be used to disclose the ESG information. And as I was mentioning, there are dimensions applied in that, so you will see quite a lot of tables that are allowing to break down the relevant information. So for example, here we have the risk and opportunities axis, which can break down the information on various governance processes, controls and procedures used to monitor, manage, and oversee risk and opportunities. So as you will see below, there are many, and actually most of the elements are actually of more narrative nature. So these are the mostly text blocks that are found in the taxonomy contents, which you can report and block tag the information from your statement. And obviously, this information can be broken down by different risks and opportunities as disclosed by the filer. If I expand the entire general requirements section, you'll see that this is quite a comprehensive set of disclosures, which are nested quite heavily in some areas. But the ultimate idea was actually to try and make it as user-friendly and easy to navigate when looking this from the perspective of the actual standards in the written form. So all the provisions that are part of the sustainability standards are reflected here in the taxonomy, and as the foundation assured the market, there are no additional contents which are not present in the standard. So this is one-to-one reflection of what can be found in the written standards that were published or issued in June this year. Yeah, so obviously, I'm not a business expert and the ESG expert, so I will not go into the details of these sections. But those of you that are interested in that may actually download the taxonomy download URL, which is free of charge, and can actually dive into the contents a bit more. If you will be doing so, I would advise to also look at the consultation paper that was published alongside with the taxonomy, that will also explain few aspects that might be a bit tricky to understand if you have limited experience working with the taxonomies and XBRL in general, but also will show how things from the standards are actually depicted in those structures. So yeah, I will go back to the slides, but we will also get back to the taxonomy contents later on, and I will be showing something. But before I move on to the next one, I will pause here, and I'm happy to take any questions.